So I have Sally Lakshmi Thurmi. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, you got it.
And she's author of two books now. So you had one book, The She Monk, and now the best-selling author of Mastering Your Inner Game.
Yeah, and I got a third book coming out next month.
Oh, a third book. Wow, you are just pumping them out there, girl.
Yeah,
I thought I'd just give you a chance to tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive in. How does that sound?
sure. So a little about myself is in relative to the story, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in my story, I begin at the time when I was 16, and I was at boarding school in the city here in Melbourne, Australia. And I'll never forget the day. It was an autumny kind of a classic Melbourne day, and something inside of me just went, whatever this world appears to be, whatever everyone else is chasing, I don't want a bar of it. I don't want it. And I was already influenced by, I was studying philosophy and systems of meaning and belief at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was already a mystical kid. I had my awakening at 11. So at 11, I had this huge download. I was a Christian kid. I was
Mm-hmm.
an expat kid, and we'd moved to Australia. And Australia in the 70s was as hardcore, straight down the line, Christian, all that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I was walking along my street, and I had this download. This thing stopped me, and I knew in that moment that I wasn't this body, that I was something eternal, and that the laws of karma came. I was going, oh, cool, you're 11 years old, and I was like, oh, that's pretty wicked. And I took it to school, and they were like, me, stop, go back, that's the devil, don't talk like that. So
Uh-huh.
I was like, all right. So I took it deep within, but it was such a profound experience that I never forgot it. So by the time I got to 16, and I had been through such a horrendous time at home, at 11, I was there because my mum had done a runner from my dad. She just took us from school one day and ran away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I had this tumultuous, volatile upbringing. And by 16, I was put in boarding school because home wasn't safe for me. I was a really bright kid, and I wasn't thriving at all. But then I heard a Buddhist nun at 16, and she had come to the school. And I said to her, what'd you talk about? Because I didn't go to her program. What are you talking about? She goes, oh, the laws of karma. And I went, oh, I know that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she said, and how you create your universe, all these sorts of things. It blew my brains. It was the first time I'd heard that level of wisdom from the wisdom that I had downloaded as a child. So that kind of fed this as well. But I also checked out. I had PTSD very severely by that time. Obviously, a mystical, sensitive kid with this hardcore background. Another kid might have survived quite well, but my brothers and I didn't. All of us were wrecked from it. And so, yeah, I checked out. I just checked out. And then because I was so not unhealed, but unrecognized, like there was no one to talk to about what I was thinking or going through. There was just, oh, a really bright kid. Suddenly she doesn't give a stuff about anything. I just was like, I don't know what to do. I married at 21. I married
Yeah.
a farmer.
Yeah.
I was like, get me out of here. Let me make this beautiful life. And of course, when you carry that level of pain body, then you attract a like partner. And so I went from the frying pan into the fire, and he was abusive. And then, but my search just got bigger and bigger. I did everything. I went from shamanism to all the schools of Christianity. I went to Buddhism. I ended up at New Age because that's kind of like was the easiest, least resistant kind of thing. But what I've learned since then is that New Age is just a loop. You get caught in a loop, and you can't get it out of it. So you can't get further until I got to 25, and my husband and I left the farm. We were working in the city, and I joined a meditation center because by that time the PTSD was doing serious damage to my body. And I know that now, but at the time people were saying, oh, what's wrong with your nervous system? I'm going, oh, I'm fine. I felt really chilled on the outside. I've always been quite a chilled, happy person, but on the inside it was wreaking havoc. And so, yeah, I went to this meditation session. It turns out he's an enlightened teacher, a master. had just moved out from India, and had I known that, I would never have gone. Seriously, I'd have gone, what the? Even with my background, it was like too freaky. But the second he opened his mouth and he started to talk, I was like, I'm home. And I was an ashram. The Daughters Meditation Center is an ashram, and I stayed there for 20 years.
Wow.
And
so you were living there with?
No, I lived next door. Here's the funny thing. They always say when you're ready, the teacher arrives. I was living down in the Mornington Peninsula, down the south of Melbourne, right at the bottom of Australia, of the mainland. And he moved to my town. He moved to my town, out of all places, right?
Yeah.
And it was my doctor that gave me his brochure and said, oh, there's something wrong with your nervous system. You're going to need to learn to meditate. I was already a good meditator at this stage. And but yeah, the stuff I got was an initiation into grace itself. There's a whole level above, people meditate to de-stress. That's almost a waste of time. It is a side effect of meditation, but meditation is so much more than that.
So describe the difference to me. What's the difference?
Well, meditation is actually where you get to come in touch with who you are. You start to, it's all about self-awareness and building a relationship with your inner world. So when you do it profoundly, you go into an internal space, and you're outrageously present. So you can you can transcend the world. So you start to see the reality of the world as dual, and you start to see I am not that. And then when you go into when you can get to the point where you enter meditation, you enter into your cosmic being, then you are dancing in the realm of grace, pure grace. We call it Shakti. And that's a different kettle of fish altogether. That's something quite spectacular.
There's a different perspective. Is that what, like, one is internal, one is more observer? Is it like that? The different levels, or you're talking about different?
Your cosmic self is the observer. It is the witness. So you could say it's your soul. It's that part of you that can never be hurt, that never dies, that is pure consciousness, that is individualized itself as your spirit. And then from that we keep manifesting, and we've become this body. But when we're alive, when we're living our life, we're so hooked into the body, and that's just a never-ending cycle of disappointment, you know. And that's, they say, delusion is. It's like, actually, and I got that at 11. I'm not this body at all. Well, then what the hell am I? So who am I guess became my quest. And who am I is a very famous form of what's called self-inquiry, where that question alone can unravel you. Behind yourself is behind the concepts, behind the layers. When we identify the body, no matter if we're sick and healing, or we've been abused or whatever, then we stay bound by it. So we need to, in meditation, we can start to just remove ourselves from that and go to something that is actually the truth. And then we start to get a lot better clarity, but we get a divine perspective. And, as I say in my story, when I met him, then all hell really broke loose, because the Shakti, that grace, works on you. So it starts to transform you, every cell from the inside out. And it's working on your karmas, like it's working on past life stuff. It's working on your ego. And when they say, when grace meets the ego, that's called a tapasya. It's like when the fire starts, you literally burn. You're bright red in the face. And you just feel this, oh my God, I don't know if I can get through this. And it can go for ages. But it's a kind of like a purification. And you're getting wisdom, and you're growing in love, and you're growing in your being. My spiritual teaching now as a teacher is just that. Big mind, big heart, big being is the foundation of being spiritual. Nothing else. Nothing else.
Yeah, I want to back up, because I thought one of the questions I had, actually, I forgot to ask this ahead of time, so I'll just ask it now. We're talking about, and you were touching on that you were with this teacher for 20 years, and yet you said your whole life broke loose, and hell broke loose. And then in the story, you were saying that actually things got worse and worse. So it's like, why would you continue? Did you not associate it at all with your spiritual?
I knew exactly what was going on.
Okay, so
I knew exactly what was going on. I was up for it. And I also am as stubborn as hell. So if you give me a task, I'm going to complete it until I get what I want. I was in there because I wanted something. I wanted just to know all this stuff. I wanted self-realization. I wasn't going to stop until I got it. But then what happened was, that with spirituality, the delusional side is very strong, very strong. So it's you have to catch it eventually. And I'd caught it in the way that I had become ingrained in there, and I wasn't meant to stay. Some people are meant to stay. Some people aren't. I wasn't.
Delusion, that doesn't make, I don't know. I don't understand that. So what does that mean, that you're delusional? Or
Yeah, so wherever there's light, there's dark.
is it like protective? Like you're trying to keep it in a defense sort of way, or no? Just tell me. Sorry.
No, I was in a bubble. I was just in a bubble, and I had carved out it was pretty nice. Like, even though I was going through transformation on a major scale, it was bloody nice as well, because you're in this sacred divine community. I was a head chef there, and I was a single mom. I was having my kids, and I was working as a chef out in the world. I didn't care about, I love my kids, but the job, and I couldn't care. I was just doing minimal contact with the world. And then all my spare time was with my community, and we all put our blood, sweat and tears into making it the place it was. But there was a part of me that started to think, I'm going to rot in this kitchen if I stay. And also because I had surrendered to grace. I had surrendered. Actually, my teacher said, and I have a very artistic, passionate, loving personality. I said, how do I, love type people seem to hurt the most. We do feel persecuted at times. And he said Christ was a love type, and he ended up nailed on a cross. So deal with it. Allow yourself to be nailed on the cross. And, I sometimes don't talk like that because, people might get the whole meaning, but I did. I just decided this is going to be my last life. I don't care. I'm going to allow this to nail me to the cross. Do, Lord, what you need to do with this body. When you surrender at that level, you bet shit's gonna happen. But at the same time, you have this full awareness as well. So it's quite spectacular. You just have to keep away from the world, because they'll think you're a lunatic. But I was starting to get it. I did get what I wanted there. I did, it got to the point where I'd sit and listen to my teacher talk, and I'd know the answers. So that thing that happened at 11 had continuously happened my whole life. I'd have these massive, significant moments where I was getting an upgrade. And, Kundalini or consciousness works in different ways in different people. But with me, it was always big chunks of wisdom. So it got to the point where I was like, then starting to argue with him. Going, well, actually, no, in a modern context, it would be X, Y, Z. And then I really started to grow and expand. And then basically consciousness was saying, you need now to leave. You're cooked. You're done. And but they didn't want me to go, and I was reluctant to go because it was so nice. My partner, all of us were so entrenched. And then, as I write in my story, the mother of all explosions happened. Because if you're meant to do something, you're getting the intel. If you ignore that intel, the universe is going to pull the rug out from under your feet. If you're really meant to, if you've got a strong dharma, a reason for being, it's going to just pull the rug out. I really got that lesson. Then that happened. And it was a pretty
so tell us about all that. What all did you give up?
I lost it all. Well, first of all, I had a disability that erupted into losing the use of my legs completely. And I went to surgeon after surgeon. They all said, get your home ready for a wheelchair. You won't walk again. So I lost my legs. I put on weight, lost my partner. And then, of course, with that came the home. With the loss of the legs meant I lost my career. But some part of me kind of knew something was coming, and I was already studying as a health coach. I was a whole food chef, a temple chef. It's like, okay, well, at some stage I'm going to need, how do I bring everything I've learned here to the world in a qualified way? So I was already studying and getting ready, ended up in a little rental and where I'm living now, pulling my kids out of private school, sending them to the local high school, which in Australia is a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
In America, university is a big deal. Over here, it's high school.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like taking kids out of an Ivy League to your local college. It
Mm-hmm.
was kind of that big move. And then I had a full-scale stage 4 adrenal breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So does that result like in just complete fatigue, or what does that look like?
That's complete wipeout. It's I had probably about 20 minutes of mental RAM a day.
Yeah.
It was a complete wipe. That was actually the PTSD saying, I'm here now, honey, you're gonna have to deal with it. And so I did. I just accepted it, discovered what it was, made friends with it, and allowed the stored childhood stuff to finally have its day in court with me, to finally come through. I excommunicated my family for a while, back on with my father. My mother died years ago. And yeah, it was just part of my journey that had to happen. It was just all that stored stuff, no matter how much work I'd be doing in another way, it just had to come out. There is no way around it. And unfortunately, I had too much of a new agey kind of a background where, you don't sit long in the feeling or just move on quickly or, think positive thoughts and it's going to be okay. It's actually a load of crap, because if your spirit has its own mind, soul consciousness is a law unto itself. And if you are meant to go through a healing journey, you can think all you like, you're going to go through a healing journey. Then in that moment, you start to co-create and you start to manifest. And about 6 months into it, I just knew I was going to heal. I knew I was going to heal. I went and I saw John of God as well. And he said, oh, you're going to have to come and stay with me in Brazil for a very long time and, get ready. And even in that moment, I thought, I don't need to. I don't need to. I've got my own source here. And I did. And they said I'd never walk again. And I'm drug-free, severe arthritis. But I walk, I hang out with my kids. I can't run or anything. Can't roller skates, but one day I might. And but I can walk down to the beach, walk into the water, as long as I'm careful.
It's nice.
So I live. Yeah.
So you're doing well now? What is the outcome of this?
That part, yeah. My whole life just got so much better. Never look a gift horse in the mouth. Just, that's another thing about this new age stuff that I can't stand. It's like some people would say to me, oh, but you're this spiritual being, but you got sick means you're not spiritual. And I think, where did that come into it? Where the hell? Christ dies on a cross. One of the most greatest enlightened beings of all time. What are you talking about? The Buddha died eating a chunk of meat. And, you read his story and he totally got stuff. He totally got the spiritual path. It's like, okay, I've just got to deal with this stuff. I just want to know who I am. I want to know what all this is about, and then just take me home. So, some of the best stories, some of the greatest beings have gone through such a lot of stuff, and yet somehow we're in this psychologically screwy era where that's seen as, oh, well, if you've been talking to your cells and your cells are sick, then you're a fraud. And it's like, that's the delusion of spirituality. That's another form of it. It's like, where there is light, there is equal forms of dark. I'm glad it was you, not me. So coming to terms with all that, and I remember when I lost my legs and I rang my teacher and I said, what the hell? What the hell? And he said, oh, don't give up now, honey. Just read the stories of the saints. And I went back and I read the stories of the saints. Every single one of them suffered. Every single one of them went through horrendous physical traumas. And I just thought, and it was like it just burst a delusional bubble that I had. Yeah. And that I'd taken on everyone's judgments and thoughts. And I was thinking, they're not real, but I can't explain why. Until I went back to my original teachings of karma that I got at 11. And it's like, Shabda Karma says that before you take this incarnation, you have set some things up. If you want to get, like I knew I obviously came in this life to understand who I was. But it was a setup, and it's not going to be given to you on a silver platter. So you will have to experience it. Spirituality is academic until we've taken it in and imbibed it, and it always comes with an experience of some sort.
Hmm. So now you've taken all this and you actually are teaching what you've learned. Is that right? Teaching others. Do you want to
Yes.
share a little bit about what you do now and how all this strategy and giving up and all the working through everything, what it's become?
Yeah, well, as I have saying to you before, I have this thing where I've worked out that my life is just an experiment. If I take it on like that, I become like a scientific witness. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that. So every time things get really bad, I actually lock myself away now. And at that time when I lost everything,
Mm-hmm.
I took myself away and I locked myself in a room. I remember one whole weekend. Recently I did it for a whole week. And I thought, I'm not leaving here until I understand what I have got to do. And I did, like within about half an hour before the 48 hours was up, I got it, another one of those massive downloads, and I saw this visualization, and I got an entire self-inquiry process out of that. So, and the basis of that is that suffering happens, and suffering's not bad. This is not a bad word, depression or illness. It's actually not bad. It's just an experience of life.
Yeah.
But what causes it to be worse is our perception of it. And so we are usually pushing it away, saying, I don't want this. Honey, God, take this away. I just want unicorns and mermaids.
Right.
So it was like, okay, who do I need to be to get through this and not have it roadkill? Not be in bad feeling with my partner who's obviously let me down big time, not be in bad feeling with all these things. And so I got it. And it started from what I call my wants technique, wants meditation. I look at wants in a different way to like the law of attraction and things like that. And it's quite true. And they've said thousands of years desire is the cause of suffering. And ignorance is also the same thing. So yeah, I now am a spiritual mentor, coach, and predominantly teacher. And so what I do is I get people, I take them into the inner world. That's obviously my best skill. And see what's going on in there. And what is it consciousness wants for them? What is the soul trying to manifest through them? And get that aligned with what their head is doing. And then move that like lower based understanding to its highest form. And then it's quite beautiful. I have 100% success rate with it. And then what started to develop out of that was I started getting a gift for saying, actually, you're meant to be doing X. You're meant to be going down this road. Consciousness wants this for you. And everyone's shit scared of their dharma, their reason for being. How to live in harmony with the world is my skill. So then I started to unravel with that, and I started doing Dharma work with people and helping people become established in faith and then take their unique spiritual gifts to the world as a soul's calling. So that's what I do.
And so what kind of people do you tend to attract? Like who would the prime client for you, or somebody, who was listening right now, how would they know if they were meant to work with you?
It's interesting, it's similar to people would say to me, oh, you're in an ashram. What sort of people go to an ashram? And I'd go, oh, qualified professional people, because it's wisdom. And there's no wisdom in the West doesn't exist. We've got some philosophies. The West is terribly loving. We're very loving. We're humanitarian. We want our citizens to be well. We're fundamentally very loving, but we're not wise. We have an emphasis on intellectual pursuits, but that doesn't make anyone wise. And the East, of course, is all about wisdom. So I tend to attract people who are intelligent. I attract professionals. And, every now and then I'll attract someone who just desperately wants help. And for a while there I was doing that, but I realized there was no Shakti, there's no grace in doing that. There are other places for them to go. For now, the more I work with professionals, and I'm moving into probably more corporate areas at the moment, the more I can see strong people who have what we call an asana, or a grounded state in the world. Give them wisdom, and then they can go forth and do great things for the planet, great things for society. So my light is lit. So my thing is to want to light the lamp of people who are goers, so I love entrepreneurs and I love professional people. And so kind of got more into leadership coming from soul.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for explaining that. So you have a gift for us. So you want to share what you have?
Yeah, my once meditation. So if anyone's going through something funky at the moment, or they just want to know more of what's going on inside the inner world and what's trying to call through them, then please go. You can email me at sallyshemunk@gmail.com, and I've got a free gift in there. It's my once meditation.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. So do you want to share anything else that we haven't covered, or?
Yeah, life is bloody fantastic. No matter what is happening to you, whether it is gnarly or disgusting or lovely and wonderful, they're just manifestations of the divine. It is all one. You cannot have life without all the differences, the spectrum, the scale of life. So no matter what you're going through, in some way, if you turn to love and acceptance of that, you're going to get tremendous gold. As you know, Sean, you're an amazing lady yourself. So don't shy away from what you're going through. Just dig deep into it and you'll get what you need.
Well, thank you for that. I'm going to close now. I appreciate you being here. It's amazing what you're doing, and thank you so much.
Thanks, beautiful.